My friends, welcome back to the channel. Did I press the, I did press it. I couldn't see the little red dot. Welcome back to the channel. Hope that you're doing well. Thank you so much. I want to, hold on, get over here. Let me give you a hug. Back up, get back now, get back. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on into the next track. Horses, Patti Smith. We're moving on into Birdland. So birds and horses. You know, I did see a video a long time ago. There was a chicken, a bird, and there was a horse grazing next to the chicken. And you know, if you turned your head around, looked back at the video, that chicken wasn't there no more. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into the track. We'll talk about it after. Let's go.
His father died. He left him a little farm in New England. All the long black funeral cars left the scene, and the boy's just standing there alone, looking at the shiny red tractor. But him and his daddy used to sit inside and circle the blue fields and grease the night. It was as if someone had spread butter on all the fine points of the stars, 'cause when he looked up they started to slip.
I like that piano, like
And
the
then he
stars.
put his head in the crooks of his arms and he started to drift to the ship. Let the ship slide open and he went inside of it and saw his daddy and the control boards streaming beams of light. He saw his daddy and the control board, and it was very different tonight, 'cause it was not human.
What a beautiful sultry bluesy tone she has.
He was not human. Little boy's face lit up with such naked joy that the sun burned around his lids, and his eyes were like two suns. White lids, white opal, seeing everything just a little bit too clearly. And he looked around and there was no black ship in sight, no black funeral cars, nothing except for him, the raven, who fell on his knees, looked up and cried out, "No, Daddy, now leave me here alone, take me up, Daddy, tell that penny of the ship, let the ship slide open and I'll go inside of it where you are not human. You are not human. But nobody heard the boys cry of alarm. Nobody there except for the birds around the New England farm, and they gathered in all directions like roses. They scattered, and they were like compass squares coming together into the head of a shaman bouquet. Slit in his nose, and all the others went shooting, and he saw the lights of traffic beckoning him like that. Hands of Blake grabbing at his cheeks, taking at his neck, all his limbs, everything was twisted. And he said, "I won't give up, don't let me give up. I he cried out as he stretched the sky, pushing it all out like latex cartoon. Am I all alone? This generation will just be dreaming of animation night and day. It won't let up, won't let up, and I see them coming in. Oh, I couldn't hear them before, but I hear them now. It's a radar scope and little silver platinum lights moving in like black ships. They were moving in streams of them, and he put up his hands and he said, it's me, I'll give you my eyes, take me up. Oh, now please take me up. I'm helium, raving, wait for you. Please take me up, don't leave me here. The sun, the sign, the cross, like the shape of a tortured woman, the true shape of a tortured woman. The mother stand in the doorway, letting her sons no longer presidents but prophets. They're all dreaming they're gonna bear the prophet. He's gonna run through the fields dreaming in animation. It's all gonna split his skull. It's gonna come out like a black bouquet, shining like a fist that's gonna shoot him up like Mohammed Boxer. Take him up, 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 up. Oh, let's go up, up. Don't let me back, take me up. I'm going up, I'm going up, I'm going up. Take me up, I'm going up, I'll go up, tell go up, go up, go up, go up. Bye, 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 bye. Where there was sand, there were tiles. The sun had melted the sand and it coagulated like a river of glass. When it hardened, he looked at the surface. He saw his face, and where their eyes were just two white opals. Two white opals. Where there were eyes, there were just two white opals. And he looked up, and the rays shot, and he saw Raven coming in, and he crawled on his back, and he went up, 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 up. Shattered-wa, but shattered-wa. Shattered-wa, but shattered-wa. Shattered-wa, but shattered-wa. We like Birdland.
What a poignant piece of music. This was incredibly intense. I hope that you were paying some attention to what she was saying. I'll go over the lyrics, of course, afterwards, but that's an incredible story. So emotionally powerful. Like, incredibly. And then her performance on top of it. Really the whole band's performance. But her singing, her vocalizations, her pained expressions, everything that she's putting out there, her feelings, it feels real. I love her use of what's the word? Intonating on certain syllables, giving a little bit of extra on certain words. I always mention a lot of times with songs like this, but especially when there's a story that's really happening, certain beats in the lyrics are accentuated by moments in the music. So there's certain stresses that she'll put on syllables. There's certain frenzied chords you'll hear on the guitar. There's one moment where the stars are mentioned, and you hear this da 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 da, like kind of like a starfall kind of sound, and that just pulls you into not only the music more, but of course the theme of whatever's happening in the music. But Patti herself impressed me thoroughly. The feeling of pain, the feeling of grief, especially in this particular track, is especially noticeable, very real, and it just hits very, very hard. I love all the waves in the music as well, the way that it starts off with piano and bass, slowly you hear a little bit of a bluesy guitar come in, then of course Patti. It starts soft, sad and melancholy, but soft nonetheless, and then eventually builds up, comes back down, and then gets back up and just capitulates into an over-the-hill moment where it sounds chaotic, but sometimes grief is chaotic. Let's kind of get into that a little bit. So, in just the first few lines, I'm not going over every single line, but in just the first few lines, you're already getting established what's happening. His father died and left him a little farm in New England. All the long black funeral cars left the scene, and the boy was just standing there alone, looking at the shiny red tractor him and his daddy used to sit inside. Without even detailing any further, you're getting set up with such a story. The imagery is just perfect. This boy lost his father. Everyone's gone. Everyone's there for the funeral. But now, just as anyone, he's left alone with his grief. You know, people can only be around so much. You have to go through it and process it on your own in the end. So that's what he's doing there. And the image of him looking at the shiny red tractor that him and his dad used to ride in. You can feel that pain immediately from Patti. Then he put his head in the crux of his arms, and he's reminiscing at this point, and he started to drift to the belly of a ship. Let the ship slide open, and he went inside of it, and saw his daddy behind the control board, streaming beads of light. He saw his daddy behind the control board, and he was very different tonight, because he was not human, he was not human. Now, there's a few ways that can be interpreted, and I'm sure that there's an actual meaning. I always just go off on my own thing, tell you what I think. I think that as he's looking at this red tractor, he's reminiscing about growing up with his father, as he mentioned, and taking rides in the tractor around the field and falling asleep in his daddy's arms, in his daddy's lap. And where does a child most feel safe? Typically in the arms of their parents, in the care of their parents. So him wanting to get into the belly of the ship is him wanting to get into the deepest part of his dad. In the sense of like feeling that shelter, that deep shelter that only a child can find with their parent. That's what I think. And the line, he was not human, he's not human, I think it's because when a child looks at a parent, their parent is like superhuman, right? Like when you think about your parents in most households, and like your parents are like superhumans. They're not human. They're amazing, So I kind of think that's what he's referencing when he says not human. Could also be he's having some sort of vision of his dad in the afterlife in some way. I mean, there's a raven that keeps on coming around. Raven, Odin, death, prophecies. There's some mentions of that later on. The little boy's face lit up with such naked joy that the sun burned around his lids and his eyes were like two suns. White lids, white opals, seeing everything just a little bit too clearly. And he looked around and there was no black ship in sight. No black funeral cars, nothing except for him and the raven. And fell on his knees and looked up and cried out, "No, Daddy, don't leave me here alone. Take me up, Daddy, Daddy, to the belly of your ship. Let the ship slide open and I'll go inside of it, where you are not human, you are not human." So I think that's him, once again, throughout this whole song, processing grief, processing the loss of his father, and just wanting to get back to that comfort that he could only find with his father. Like I said, that's what I think. There really could be so many different directions, and he's constantly looking through the lyrics like he's wanting to get back up into that ship with his father. In a sense, I guess you could say death. Is he wishing for death? All he's wishing for is just to be with his father, one way or another. He even says, we'll go inside of it where we are not human. So he's willing to, in a sense, give away his humanity, in some sense, to be with his father. So I just think this is a really cool song about processing grief, basically. Now let me see if we can dive a little bit deeper, see if we find some actual information on what Patti herself meant in this particular track. It says here, Birdland was inspired by a Book of Dreams, a 1973 memoir of Austrian psychoanalyst Wilhelm Reich by his son Peter, and revolves around a narrative in which Peter, at his father's funeral, imagines leaving on a UFO piloted by his father's spirit. So it's a little bit more literal than I thought. Or maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe the actual meaning of that book, A Book of Dreams, is, I don't know. It's all up in the air with Dad. Anyways, please let me know what you guys thought of the track. You can let me know in the comments down below. You can follow me on Twitter. You can support the channel and what I do here on Patreon for as little as $2 a month. But otherwise, I hope that you enjoyed the video. Hope that you enjoyed the music. Come on back tomorrow. And I'll see you all then. Bye, guys.